Oh my goodness. Seriously, I have to just do it. It's like I can tell myself I don't have to think about things that don't matter.
I was designed to do those things. How the hell does this guy know this about me?
It's impossible to not see.
When Dan read for my sister, she was like, he's psychic. She's like, how did you know that?
Yes.
She's like, it's human design, guys. Like, it's just a testimony of how legit it is.
Seriously, Danny was like FBI or CIA. He's like, how the hell does this guy know this about me?
Having my chart read, there were just thing after thing after thing that I was just like, wow, that's me.
This man is reading me and I've never met him before.
I was in the midst of one of the biggest emotional waves I've ever been in my life, and he saved my life.
It seems like everybody has the same reaction. It's that aha moment, and they want to find out more.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Human Design Advantage podcast. My name is Jen, and decoding the matrix for us is Danny Guru. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Jen. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
We got a nice show today. We're going to be talking about the seven-centered being versus the nine-centered being.
Yes, and that's a very important topic that we do need to discuss. And I'm super excited to be diving into today's show. But before we do that, guys, as always, just a little bit of housekeeping. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow. Hit that notification button. As well as you saw the commercial before, we have a new store. I just want to give a heads up. We have free shipping right now. So this is how we support our cause. If you want to get your HDA gear, go down below and you can just use free shipping code Awaken, all caps. And yeah, we've got our gear coming and I'm super excited to be.
I'll be wearing that shirt next week, I hope.
Yes, hopefully it'll be here by next week. So we can start supporting our mission when we, walk around.
Yep. It's a conspiracy to awaken. So last week we had a panel and we were talking about the effects of human design on people's lives who've had entered the experiment. And as they enter the experiment, they sort of step out of their old seven-centered existence into our new nine-centered existence.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you give a little bit of explanation for people to understand what is the seven-centered and the nine-centered?
Yeah, okay. So the seven-centered existence, our old way, was everything up till 1781. At 1781, when one man on this planet discovered another planet that was millions of miles out, it was the planet Uranus. When that happened, human consciousness evolved. And in that evolution, our body graphs opened up. If everyone looks at their body graph, if you've experimented and you're seeing that human design works in your life, there's something there. You realize, oh my God, this is a science. I can apply this daily. But you're still looking at nine centers in a body graph where the old seven-centered Hindu Brahmin chakra system was sitting there right up the center of that body graph. If you look right up the center, it's like there's your old seven-centered being. Old, new, these are relative terms. Who cares? The old way was seven-centered and it was designed to cooperate. It was designed to be focused and always active. It was designed to be highly strategic. It just wanted to survive, and it was designed to live on its survival fears and live in that awkward place we know of as mind. Remember, mind has a frequency where it holds on to stuff through all of time. And what was it holding on to? It was holding on to its splenic fears. Remember, we've done this a bunch of times, the cyclone of our awareness, these three awareness centers. It used to be two. And where the new emotional awareness we're growing now was there, but it just was turbulence. And now it's extreme turbulence because it's waking up. So the nine-centered being was there to be a transit form. We're intransitus. We're an interregnum in a way where we're transitioning. And for 1,000 years or so between then and into our hopefully very near future, we start to get used to this awakened solar plex center in our body that is literally our emotions. We experience it as nervousness and all kinds of things.
So the emotional authority, that is pretty much new?
It is very new. It is very new. It's only
So
241 years old.
interesting. So let me ask this question because it just came in. So the ones that have the emotional authority, we are really learning how to utilize this.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yin and yang, and those that don't have it are learning to utilize themselves in communion with you. So we're all learning. We're all learning. You guys bring it. We're all learning it, just like everyone brings it, and then we learn it. But we're learning it as these 9-centered beings away from our old strategic way. The old strategic way could kill anything. It could murder anybody. It would do whatever. It would conquer any tribe. It would be fiercely tribal. Loyalism was demanded. Death came to thee who was not loyal to the tribe, and but we're not willing to be that brutal. We still love our tribal way, but we're not willing to be that brutal. The old 7-centered way, Jen, it was awful because it was great for them, but it's awful for us because that mind held on to what over all of time? It held on to its splenic fears over all of time. So the spleen kept delivering mind fear. Fear you won't survive. Fear you need more stuff. Fear you don't have enough. Fear you might not be good enough. Fear you better go kill the village next door. And I always use that example because we have a long history, tens of thousands of years of just wiping out the village next door and taking all their stuff.
Yes.
It's not very friendly. I don't like it. I live in a neighborhood. I don't feel like going to the neighborhood a few blocks down and wiping them out and taking all their stuff. That doesn't sound very cool to me.
On my mom's side, I have Norwegian in me and Vikings, and so
you guys are awful. Yeah.
And some of the things that they did in their tribal communities, especially when it came to like execution and stuff like that, they were pretty ruthless.
Yeah. It's like very matter of fact, like, and they didn't suffer very much as it relates to all the emotional stuff we carry around now. And as we get out of mind the frequency over all of time, we'll stop holding on to that emotional stuff over all of time. It's in the water of our cells, and we need to decondition that out by living out the experiment. You come to a human design reading, you will live out and you will enter into an experiment, and as you start to live that out, the old way washes away and your new way comes in. That new way pushes out the forces that are no good. It brings in the forces that are, and it brings all kinds of material advantage and success to people. People are looking for a quick fix to material success and advantage. Well, you might be able to find some quick fixes, but for the other 99.99% of us that don't, this is the way. This is the way. So that's what's happening. And that old 7-centered way was ruthless and it didn't care. And think about mind as a frequency over all of time, holding on to fears that are from the spleen that are only meant to exist in the moment. We've talked about this. The fear is just in the spleen is just to be now. Right now, I got to do something. Then the fear is gone. Right now, fear is driving intelligence. But once mind gets a hold of that, it holds on to that and tries to become intelligent with it over all of time. Well, I killed the village next door, so let's keep killing the villages next door. Let's take over the world. Then we'll be safe. It allows time to become the thing that we measure by. If only in the future I kill everything, I'll be safe. If England rules the world, we'll be safe. If Nazi Germany rules the world, we'll be safe.
Yeah.
The Nazis will be safe. The Aryan race will survive. Right now, the globalists, if we rule the whole world, will be, then we'll be safe. Our globalist tribe will be safe. It's still tribalism masquerading as a collective way. I mean, the Klaus Schwab, we're doing Klaus Schwab on Wednesday, by the way. And I've been grabbing clips with that guy. He's bad. He's bad, man. There's that.
Tune in, guys, to our Wednesday show. We renamed it, so it is the heroes and the human designs of the heroes and villains of our time.
Yes, and we get a lot of villains, so we need suggestions for heroes too, because
yes,
the heroes blend in, and the
I
villains
question
can't.
everybody.
Right. I know you do, Jen.
It's my design.
It's how you're made. If it weren't for you, I would walk into all kinds of fire. So because I don't know. So that, the villains stand out, and they stand out because, like a sore thumb, they're living out the old seven-centered way. Conquer it, kill it, control it, rule it, make a hierarchy, and then be at the top of that hierarchy. That's in the old seven-centered way. That was every tribe's dream, from before Genghis Khan through to what we're living out right now, because we still are living out this old seven-centered existence. It's awful. So humans are waking up, Jennifer. They're waking up. But the thing is, as we open up this human design experiment onto the world and start letting people into it and bringing them in, we'll start to bring them in more en masse. We can start to read for more than just one at a time. That's what we're after. And then deal with them one at a time. We still deal with people one at a time, but we can read for more than one at a time. And they can start to see, oh, I have an experiment I need to get into. And as that starts to happen, the old seven-centered way will wash out, and no longer will we live out this anxiety-ridden, fear-based, I need to control it or I'm not safe, that old way. It's crazy.
I'll tell it myself. I've experienced that this past week.
Yeah.
And I think it's a mixture of a lot of things, but I'm in the experiment. I love being in the experiment. But it's that awareness and a lot of the anxiety. Like, I had to keep telling myself I was worrying about things that did not matter. They didn't matter.
Yep. They just don't matter. And that's what, so again, these frequencies, the frequency of awareness of the spleen is moment to moment. It's in the moment. It just lives right now. If you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. And then your mind will pick it up and live out its frequency over all of time. And so over all of time, we grow a baggage of fears that aren't ours. And they sit in the memory, in the cellular memory of the water of our cells. They sit inside of us, and we decondition that out of us by living out our nature. And it suddenly that starts to go away. We live out our nature by having your human design reading and recognizing your type, your strategy, your authority. It's our only access point to get to the stuff that we're not. That's basically the title of probably the next couple of shows. Who you really are and who you are not. And we are not this old seven-centered hierarchical way. We have a little bit of hierarchy. We always need a little bit because we have to organize. But outside of that, we don't need a lot. We really don't. If anyone here is a Star Trek fan, Gene Roddenberry, and notice Star Trek has proliferated into the future. You can't kill it. It won't die. There's a new series out just recently. They can't seem to kill what is the premise of Star Trek, which was in the future, they did away with money. They did away with material belongings as it relates to that's my measure. And everybody started becoming their highest potential. And suddenly they were Starfleet and they were this and that. Of course, Hollywood bastardizes that, and it's still all about wars and fights with aliens and this and that. But the truth of the matter is, every time they came back to planet Earth, it was this in a form of a utopian civilization that wasn't really a utopia. It was just a bunch of individuals. Remember, we're liberating the individual, and to liberate that individual, they have to be doing what makes them happy.
Yes, and that is living how they are made to live.
Absolutely. It's how you're designed. The channels in your body graph tell us the life force that is you. The openness in your body graph tells us what you're not, what you're here learning, what you're here seeing. And it's up to us to stop trying to live out the old seven-centered way of what we're not and start living out this new 9-centered way in communion with what we are. And think about the difference between cooperation and communion. I mean, help me unpack this for a second, Jennifer. The old way was cooperative. It stopped at cooperation. The new 9-centered way picked up with cooperation, said, yeah, cooperation, but now communion. What's the difference between cooperation and communion?
Cooperation is following something, or you're someone else is telling you to do something and you are following that order, where communion is you're wanting to do that. It's that attraction to want to seek other people, individuals, to have a tribe. And that's really big right now, because a lot of people who are going through the awakening process, and they're either leaving their families, they're seeking out their soul tribe to commune, to build together.
Indeed, they are.
Because they don't want to cooperate with the system anymore.
No, because cooperation means when you're done cooperating, you can appear cooperative, but once you're done cooperating, now you can go kill it and take all their stuff. I mean, that's the simplicity of the history of our world. Cooperate, then kill it and take all their stuff. We've been doing that the whole time.
Well, and they've erased it the whole time. Like, that's a whole separate show. We don't even know what's true and what's not true.
Right.
Because people, once us wake up or start to stop cooperating, that's when they come in and they kill.
Right. They come in and they kill it all. And they do erase our history. Think about why they do that. They erase their history because they are aware, either consciously or not, that our new 9-centered way won't approve of that. Humanity en masse won't approve of living out that old way. We don't approve of it.
No.
We really don't, but we haven't figured out how to put it into words, because we're so science-based that our science needs to approve it. And if the science doesn't approve it, then how do we know it's real? Well, that's rather one-dimensional. I mean, that's almost like 0.5 dimensional. It doesn't even equal a dimension. It's an aspect. It's a great aspect. I love science. Science tells us all kinds of stuff. If it weren't for our scientific way, we wouldn't have the immaculate beauty of this human design body graph. And we wouldn't know how to stop living out what we're not. Who you are and who you are not is inside your human design body graph. And it is so simple that it takes a 5-year-old to really understand it in certain ways. And that simplicity is not to be confused with that it's easy. It's not easy because we're conditioned. We grew up in this conditioned world. But it is simple. It's always the basics. Follow your strategy. Understand this authority in you that makes decisions. Understand that human design is about navigating your life through appropriate decision making for you. For who? For the individual. All decision making starts out with the truth for the individual. And as soon as we can get the collective out of the way so that they stop trying to crush us, then the individual can thrive. What's happening now is the individual is being pressured to wake up. So I can't say that this time of our existence is fully a mistake. In a way, we needed to be pressured to escape the old way. Under pressure.
Now that you say that, that's a major, like, it is. Imagine all the the defined root people that are awake, that are trying to wake up the the open. Oh my gosh, it's
right.
Been feeding off of each other. This is how it escalates.
This is how it escalates.
And now that you're saying it, I'm seeing it in my mind's eye, like the whole.
Yeah, and think of this third awareness that's waking up.
Yes.
This emotional awareness, we experience it as nervousness.
Oh my God, okay. So I just had another epiphany, because when your vibration rises, okay, when you wake up, whether it's through human design, other people are waking up in different ways and shapes or form. But when your vibration raises quantumly, it affects those that are around you. And sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not. Like I entered this experiment with my little sister. When I'm going through my awakening, it's rubbing off on her, so she's kind of going through similar things. The human design kind of brings in the scientific thing of why this is happening. I bet you in some way, shape, or form where either filling centers or activating gates. I didn't think about it that way.
Literally, and all these gates in our body graph. Listen, break it down to something simple, guys. Count the gates in your body graph. It's a finite number. You'll find that you have on average, 17 on the low side and 21 on the high side. So it's somewhere in that range. So call it
Can
even.
you tell people how to count their gates?
Yeah.
It would be everything that's
every purple circle.
okay.
Every purple circle around a number. It's wherever there's a line. Yeah, here you go. This is today.
This is today.
Holy cow. So, wow. Here's a being that is
18 gates.
Oh, you counted them? Okay.
Uh-huh.
So there's always about that number of gates. So look at what this being is. This being is incredibly individual. Do you see that whole column right down the center? It's only missing gate number 1. That's all that this being is missing.
Oh yeah, it is.
And then otherwise they have an entire, it's like the whole tree of individuality is sitting inside of the babies that are being born today. So now I can tell mothers and fathers, parents, all of the children that were born anywhere from probably a day or so ago through to about tomorrow, 9, let's see, and 13. Yeah, through about tomorrow or the next day. All of your children are so incredibly individual and unique that you'll never be able to control them and tell them what to do. And if you do, you're killing their spirit. Don't make rules for this child. This child is also a triple split. Notice there's a triple split in where it says definition. So this child is going to need to be in and out of different public auras. If you helicopter over this child and make them stay only in the family unit and not be out in other public auras, starting from a very young age, like birth. As soon as the child is safe enough to travel, you take it to grandma's house. You take it out into the cafe. You take this child with you in and out of auras and watch its health just explode. That's something a triple split needs to do. So if you're an adult with a triple split, what you're not is a self-contained unit. You have to be out in the public aura. So again, who you are. This being has the channel of community, but it's unconscious in them. We saw what happened on Wednesday when Jen Psaki, when she had the unconscious channel of community. When you have the unconscious channel of community, well, you're all messed up because you get hijacked unless you have the serendipity to live out your design and your parents that literally treated you according to your design accidentally. It can happen, to a degree. It'll never happen fully until a parent is aware of what the aspects are of this child. Every gate in this body graph carries a meaning. Gate 36 off of the solar plex says that I have a crisis or not. When it's awake, it simply says, oh, I'm inexperienced in this. That's all. But right now we experience inexperience as something our mind holds on to over all of time as nervousness. Oh my God, I don't know. I don't know what it's like. It's a crisis. I need to know. I need to get to the end. I need to get to completion and to progress. I need to manifest this. It doesn't have a gate 35. Gate 35 in the throat center. So it's not a complete life force. So the not self of this being is I'm always having a crisis. Gate 22, all the gates have a meaning is the thing. Look at the head center. Unconsciously, there is doubt and a pressure to know the unknowable, to know the now, to figure out the mystery, to simply know, to say, I know. And so
it's a constant pressure to know.
Constant pressure to know. This person's constantly returning to what they don't know.
Right now.
Think of that as psychosis.
That's everything.
That's everything. Right.
So would that so not self would be considered as thinking about things that don't matter?
Right. Even though that it's not an open head, the open head center is wildly plagued with thinking about things that don't matter. The defined head center also thinks about things that don't matter, but they're equipped to do that. The insanity comes in when they start applying meaning to the things that don't matter. The open head center can't even apply the meaning. It's just stuff that doesn't matter. It's too muchness.
I know that insanity. I have a defined head center, and I can do that.
Yeah, but we do it. We keep doing it, and so now suddenly this being will now mentally construct I know over the inexperience and the crisis of gate 36, and suddenly they'll hold on to that through all of time. I know I shouldn't do this because that led to a crisis. Well, that's not true. That's not true at all. Who you're not led to a crisis. Who you're not are all these bridging gates. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's at least 6 different bridging gates that would bridge this. 7 different gates that would bridge the 3 parts together. They all come into play. The person tries to be them. There are also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 hanging gates in defined centers that don't create a full life force. Go to the top where you see gate 63 in red. It's on the right. That's doubt. That's the pressure to doubt. The pressure to literally say, I'm not sure if that's logical, if that's a logical system. There might be something going on here. It's the pressure to have a sudden fear that comes up with a formula. Not to have a freaking fear that holds on to the lack of a formula over all of time. Hey, no formula. Okay. What else do I know? Well, I know this. Okay. New formula. They don't have the gate of making formulas, which is gate 14. It's called youthful folly. Gate 4, I mean, because they can come up with anything. So they're just under pressure, and that pressure to doubt is given an outlet through the channel that is there, the channel of mystery, the channel of trying to figure out what it doesn't know, which is trying to rationalize the stuff that it can't figure out, come up with a new rationale. And look, it's connected all the way down to the throat. So they're aware that they come up with concepts and that they know. They have insights that come flying through. They just don't know where all those insights come from. It's a racket and a noise. And when it's plagued by the hanging gate of doubt, suddenly I doubt it. I doubt it. I doubt it. And I put it inside this 3-5 profile of this being. And I recognize this being is going to become incredibly pessimistic about the stuff that they doubt, what they cannot know. And suddenly they become pessimistic about trying to know, but their mind won't shut off. Well, let's drug them. You need drugs. You need to follow the 7-centered way and pick yourself up by the bootstraps and figure it out.
I have that doubt.
Yeah.
I just checked because it's like, that sounds so familiar with me.
Sure. That's the doubt of what we're not. What we are is we're only in the moment, Jen. We live now. Everything before and after is everything that's in the future hasn't happened yet. Everything that's in the past has lost its meaning as it relates to our right now. There's just nothing we can really do about it. So this person hasn't look at the 2 gates that come off the throat center. That are the 16 and the 20. Actually, okay. And the 8 as well. Yeah. So 8 wants to contribute. I'm dying to contribute, but it's not connected to a motor, so it can't make its contribution. But it starts out with gate 16. It's enthusiastic. It's identifying a pattern that it can love. So I love this pattern. Oh my God, I love it. And gate 20 says, right now, I know I should have power right now. It's in a generator. So that generator is always generating power right now. But gate 20 doesn't have access to that power right now. It's not connected. So they're enthusiastic right now about what they can contribute until they suddenly have a doubt, and that doubt can't come up with a rationale, and suddenly the insights get disorganized, and now they don't know what they can contribute, and they become pessimistic. And suddenly all that enthusiasm goes away. Now, if you have a child born today, you start to recognize this happening in them. at an early age and you can school them, they don't need to contribute until the timing is right. Their sacral authority, their sacral responsive mechanism will respond with what's true. They don't need to know beyond a single moment what is true. Oh, if you're still not sure, your emotional authority will tell you what decision to make. You just have to wait out some time. You'll have a wave that ratchets up and down a little bit. And when you start teaching your child that when they are young, they'll never grow up with a chip on their shoulder that they have an emotional wave that brings me into chaos and this depth of despair that seems like it'll never end. That's not true. The child will cycle through that moment in as little as a few seconds, in as little as a few minutes. Don't forget the child's event horizon is always right now. They're too young to have the experience of anything else. You got to get them while they're young so you can get this microcosm, and so that their experience can literally go out over the course of just a few minutes, an hour, part of an afternoon. We hang on to this stuff over all of time because we're broken adults, we're still trying to figure out all this stuff, and all the mindfulness in the world doesn't quite cure that. It gets us temporary relief. If you want to cure it, enter your process. Enter the human design experiment of having your reading, doing the analysis, and start to understand your type, your strategy, and your authority. This being will have an authority that is to respond. Their truth will be a response in the moment. Hey, do you like it? I don't know. Start asking your young child at an early age only yes/no questions. When I say only, you'll flesh it out. You're a mother, you're a father, you'll figure out where that fleshes out. But let everything start with a yes/no question. Want to go outside? Uh-huh. You want to come in? Uh-uh. You want chocolate ice cream? Uh-huh. You want to play with your friends? Sounds like you don't know. Do you not know? Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay. Suddenly, that child will give themselves infinite permission to be not sure as an adult. How many times do we get caught unsure as an adult, and suddenly we think that's a problem? Oh, we're supposed to be sure. Oh, I better have the right answer. Oh, I'll look like a failure if I don't know. Oh, I am a failure because I didn't know. Oh, I'm going down on my emotional wave. This isn't good. Oh my God, I'm afraid. This child also has fears, and they don't know what to fear. Look at that spleen. It's completely open.
It's the only thing that is open on them.
Yes. And so there's no hanging gates off. There's no dormant gates off of this body graph. A dormant gate is a gate off of an open center. That's hanging gate on an open center. It's called dormant because it doesn't become active until it's activated. You're in the aura of something, or you've experienced it enough times in the aura of someone who activates it, or a crowd, or a transit. And so when you have an open spleen, you don't know what to fear. Spleen is the prime fear center in our body graph. It's survival fear, period. And it happens so fast. And it's there to keep us safe, just like our immune system. Spleen and the immune system are to be looked at as one and the same. It's here to keep us safe, inside and out. So on the outside world, this child doesn't know what to fear. So mom, make sure you get this trial and error generator who's going to try everything, and they're going to sustain at trying everything. They're the determined discoverer. And as soon as they're old enough to start walking, you make sure you put some soft things on the edges and corners of counters and tables. Have some gates around that can make sure that the child has some limitations so that you can see it's starting to understand what keeps it safe. At when you give it paper mache wings, keep an eye on it because it's going to go to the second floor and try and fly out the window. It doesn't know what to fear. I'm not kidding. I tried to fly, but I have.
So ahead. Would they be a daredevil?
Totally. As a potential. Yeah. I tried to fly. Everyone tried to fly at some point in time, but most everyone has at least a gate on the spleen. So it gives them an intermittent fear. I have a gate 44 on my spleen. It makes me fear extinction for myself, for my family, for my tribe, for humanity. I'm always concerned about the past. So I went to jump off the top of the roof of my barn, and I kept looking down. I kept saying, I'm afraid I'm going to die. Good generator. Good dumb generator. get the hell off that freaking roof and, jump off the porch where you can like land and roll, don't jump off the top of the peak of the house. I had umbrellas. It wasn't wings. And I was certain the umbrellas would break my fall. So I got smart. I went way down to the very bottom where it was just like 7 feet or 6 feet off from the little roof to where I could have jumped. And I jumped off of that, and I realized pretty quick, this doesn't stop my inertia fast enough. And I never even missed going up to the top anymore. This completely open being does not know what to fear. Because don't forget, fear drives intelligence. I got smart. I didn't jump. Like Mary Poppins with the stupid. It's Mary Poppins' fault, So
It's Disney's fault.
Yes, of course it's Disney's fault. Yeah. Hi, Savannah.
Hi. Sorry, it took me a while to get on here. So you guys are talking about the spleen and how if it's open, they tend to not know what's safe and what's not. And so they tend to kind of get in situations where they get hurt a lot. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Absolutely, especially this being because they have a 3-5 profile. That third line is trial and error, sustained trial and error, try it. If you're the parent of this child, and thing is, completely open centers take on a slightly different meaning than open centers that have activations. So,
my son Bodhi, that's exactly how his is. His spleen is open and no gates attached, and he's a little 1-3, and so I've noticed that about him. He's
going to sustain at trying everything. He puts anything in his mouth. He tries anything he wants. He doesn't know how to feel safe, so he just cries and cries and cries until his mom comes and gets him. He'll wail. You can't even stop him until he's amused with the next thing. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally him. So,
So not knowing what to fear. So that's who this child is not. And you put this into an adult, and now this adult is incredibly afraid of everything. They have learned what they're not as a problem instead of a place that they got wise when they were a child and an adolescent and a young adult. This kid's going to break a toe. It's going to, bust a few things up. They're going to have to find out the hard way. If you helicopter over this child, you guarantee an early death for them as an adult because they don't know what to fear. So subsequently, in a giant world where your mind holds on to everything and you're trying to rationalize everything and your mind never shuts off and you don't know what to fear, what happens? You fear everything.
Yeah.
Don't people who have open spleens, don't they tend to take on like the collective fear?
Totally.
So like during COVID, and like everyone was frantic about it. These people with open spleens, wouldn't they be absorbing all of that and like not distinguish what's theirs and like what's the collective and what's theirs?
All day long, Savannah, they would be the type of person that will take on, all the awareness centers will absorb the collective fears, by the way. But the spleen spheres are sharp because they're in the moment and they're about survival. Literally, they're about, will I live in the next moment? And we need that.
Someone was telling me, I don't know if this is true, but someone was saying a good way to like, if you do have an open spleen and absorbing everyone's fears is to like go out and be in nature, just like being around trees and things like that. Someone told me it kind of like cleanses the open spleen. Is that true? Have you heard anything like that, Dan?
I haven't heard anything like that, but we're wicked clever little beings. So if someone pointed that out to you, do they have an open spleen? Did they experiment with that?
I can't remember. I can't remember where I read it, but they just read it.
Even better. Then I love it. That means a being put a measurement, took the time to measure, and maybe they had an open spleen and they took the time to write it down. So yeah, I love it. Experiment with that. Get out in nature and go hug a tree, literally, and don't be afraid that there's a bear is going to come and try and eat you. So you're always going to prepare. If you have a completely open spleen, you will learn to prepare the things that make you safe. You'll learn that through a trial and error process in that profile. So that's just a thing we can count on.
So someone with a filled-in spleen, they would kind of just intuitively know like what's good for them, like physically eating or in a relationship, right?
Yep. They'll know in the moment the stuff that's going to keep them safe or not. Both you guys have defined spleens. Yes. You don't really concern yourself too much with your health. You don't concern yourself too much until you truly need to be afraid, and then suddenly it's immediate action. You know, I have an open spleen. I don't know. I have lived, my parents didn't know to tell me. Like I've said in the previous episode, I was afraid of monsters up until 10, 12 years old. You know, I had fears that just wouldn't leave. They would just stay. And they were fears about the one gate I have, which set the tempo and the theme for how I would fear. I feared my death, my extinction, my demise. I feared the end of things until I was back in my generative self, caught up in the moment. Then I feared nothing. I would run out and do whatever. And one was me and one was not. So my mom intuitively would have spotted that at a young age, and she would have put a body graph on my wall and said, no, honey, this is where you get smart. You're so smart about the things that aren't safe. You're going to get so smart with all this stuff, you know, and you can come talk to me about anything. I'll ask you questions. You know, mothers would intuitively know this stuff, and they would start to see it in their children, and they would give their children the gift of their design so that they can survive and withstand this homogenizing world that we live in that conditions us and takes us away from our nature. So that body graph is, who's that kid? That kid's a mutative little 3-5 soul who can't help but to bump into things and attract society. And he loves things to be attractive, and he's not going to investigate too hard. He's just going to go out and do, and he's going to sustain at that. And he's going to break a few bones potentially unless you learn to keep him safe. And he's going to think about everything. And he's going to have a wonderfully supportive nature when he's responded into something that is a good use for his energy. So watch him. If you don't see his energy being used right, he has responded into the wrong community effort. That's who he's not. Because who he is a responder into the right community effort. Mm-hmm. So let the kid go. Don't make him stay at the stupid family gathering. Tell this boy or girl to go ride your bike. Maybe do you want to go play with John? You know, take a moment out of your community gathering and see if he wants to go play with his best friend, and call the kid's mother and take 10 minutes out of your day to go see to it that kid is now playing with his friend, and his mother, the mother over there, is supervising him, you know, and they're doing whatever, and bam, now that kid knows, oh, I'm the most important thing on the planet, because he is. You know, you're not. Mom and dad and family and mores and social conditions and the family gathering. You're not the most important thing. If you want to take a moment to pick the kid up in your arms and walk around and say, oh, kid's going to play with his friend, and say bye to uncle this one and auntie that one and play nice for 2 seconds, go for it. And then get the hell out of Dodge. Watch for your child. They'll tell you what they need. They're right. You're about to murder it and take it away from them to where they'll be wrong, and you'll think you're happy.
You'll think you're happy.
Yes. Because whatever. Go ahead, Savannah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, Dan, you've helped me a lot with my kids, because I'm a projector, and then I have 2 generators and then 2 manifesting generators. And so I'm kind of like overrun with generators. But you told me to ask them yes, no questions. And because I would always ask like why questions. I don't know if, you know, and you were like, no, like just yes and no answers. And so I'm trying to be more consciously aware of this. So my son, he was playing outside playing tag, and he came in, he has gate 51, right? Super competitive.
3 times, right?
3 times, yes. So he's like
so for everyone, gate 51 is the desire of the warrior to leap.
Yeah.
To leap.
Yes. And so and then he has that fighter gate 38. 38. He has it twice in his design. So he's just like this fighter, passionate. Yep. Yeah. And then he also has gate 21 repeated twice, which is like I talk about the Thatcher a lot. Anyways, but so he comes in, he's like pissed. He's like screaming because he got like out of the game of tag, and dude, he was just like explosive. And he has gate 36 that you were talking about earlier today, how everything feels like a crisis when they don't feel like they haven't experienced something. And so he is just just like exploding with all these emotions. And here I have an open emotional center. So I'm just like, oh, you know, like I just feel overwhelmed a lot around him. And I just feel like it like fries my nervous system. And so, but he came in and I noticed it's like I couldn't talk him out of him not feeling that way. Like I tried to like logically like, Thatcher, like what good does it do, you know, to like you lost, like you just have to learn from it, you know, just keep trying, you know. But none of that was working. It was almost like he would just explode even more. And so I just started to ask him, like, are you frustrated, Thatcher, that you got out? Yeah. You know, and then it was like I just started asking questions like that, and that seemed like it'd be the
feel bad.
Yes, I was asking questions like that, like, does that make you frustrated? And he's like, yeah, you know. And it's like, do you want to keep playing with them? No, you know. So it's like, it almost seemed like the more yes no questions I asked, it just seemed like his emotions, that was like the only way to calm him down, was just like, I feel like it was kind of validating how he was feeling, so he didn't feel like he had to like
it calmed him down.
Yeah, it calmed him down.
Talk to how it calmed him down, because this is wicked critical. You just described an escalating process that escalated in reverse. It de-escalated. This is his design. You treated him according to his design. Yes.
Yeah. And so I was like, thank you, Dan. Because it seems like the only thing would work. Because I wanted to like logically explain it. Like, how does blowing up like this solve your problem? You know, but like that, it just made him more upset. And so I started asking the yes no questions, and then he started to like, I don't know. As he heard himself say it, it was like, oh, okay. Like I'm being validated. Like, yes, that is how I feel. Okay, I can calm down now. You know.
And you start getting a pro at asking questions. Hey, you're frustrated. Is that okay? Well, no. Well, does it make you feel bad? Yes. Is it okay to sometimes feel bad? I don't know. Okay. You keep going and you find ways to stack upon the other what the question was. Like you said, you want to go back out and play with your friends? He said no. Good generator. So if you don't want to play with your friends, is it okay that you're here right now? Oh, well, sure. And I don't know what the kid would say. You'll know. You'll be there.
Yeah. And it's gotten to the point, like with Thatcher, like if you see his chart, I don't know if you want to like put his chart up here, but he just has a lot going on in his chart. But yeah, he's gotten in fights. Yeah, he's gotten in some fights with like the kids around here. And like sometimes I'm like, I don't know how to address this. So like I've gotten to the point where I like pull out his chart and like I read to him like, look, gate 51. So I started reading through it and I'm like, does that sound like you, Thatcher? And he's like, yeah. You know, so I'm trying to teach them their design, like with the book that you recommended, Dan. And I feel like it's helping a lot. It's helping me understand my kids also, that it's like sometimes they act out in these certain ways and it's like they can't help it, you know, like why should I shouldn't guilt him and shame him, you know, for doing what he does, when here it's like all written out in his chart. And so
he's going to get into some fights. He's going to get into some various things. He might get a black eye one day or a bloody lip, maybe. Who knows? But as he sees his design more, less will he try to concern himself with who else he needs to control.
Yes, and like that gate 51, it mentions how sometimes if it's a hanging gate 51, sometimes they can be a little bit foolish and jump into things without really thinking about things, and that's totally Thatcher. Yeah. And so I'm like, I can't get mad at him. Like this kid's just living his design, you know. Like
let's picture the other. We take 100 parents, and you're one. The other 99 parents are trying to scold this child. They're trying to take this child away from its nature. They're up to and including punishing him. Some parents might go as far as to beat the kid. Some parents might go as far as to like try to numb out and have a drink because they don't know how to control all that explosive energy. Some parents will have an open solar plex center like you, Savannah, and me, and that energy gets amplified because they're emotional and we amplify it. Open centers amplify defined centers. So they amplify it through to distortion. And suddenly we're all distorted. We don't even know how to deal with it. We might yell back at them. Suddenly.
Oh, sorry. Something else I was going to say is Thatcher, the child I've been talking about, he's born the exact same day as his uncle is. They're both born. He's a St. Patrick's Day baby.
Right.
And they were, yeah. And so they're born like in the evening, the same time, like around 7, 8. And so I got curious and I'm like, I got to pull my brother-in-law's chart. So I did. And they both have the same carnation cross. So that's the same conscious and unconscious sun. And what's so crazy is my brother-in-law, when he was really young, he's exactly how Thatcher is, just really defiant, that gate of shock. Like he was in jail by the time he was 15. And my husband's dad did try to do what you were saying, Dan, where he was trying to like force him and like punishing him to get the good behavior he wanted, but it just backfired. And he, you know, he had a really hard life. He's been in jail and things like that. And but before we even knew about human design, my husband was always like, Thatcher reminds me so much of my brother. Who they have the same birthday, so it just like blew our minds when we pulled like both their charts
and saw the similarities.
Yes, they have like some of the same channels, the same carnation cross. So that anyway, so it's really cool.
Now your brother-in-law, Jake's brother, will give the gift of our awareness. The awareness we do hold on to over all of time from the mind, it has its value. We're just not supposed to do anything with it until it becomes useful. So now you have the value of recognizing what Thatcher doesn't need to become as it relates to having those kinds of problems. And now Jake's brother can literally start to wake up to his nature should he want to be read. He can start to see where was he helpless and how it's not his fault. He's blameless in all of this. Blameless.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Khalid's here. Holy cow. Hey, Khalid, how are you? Good deal.
So my brother-in-law, he was a 6'2" profile, but my son is a 5'1" profile. So, but we were actually, Jake was going to talk to Adam about his chart, and because he wants to start a business. And so we were like, oh my gosh, human design would help him so much because he has that hanging gate 55, right? That
generator?
He's a manifesting generator, and then he has that gate 55. And so I'm like, he's gonna have to be passionate about the new business he's starting, just how you shared.
I'll be able to ask him the right questions. Let's get him on board. So
sorry, we went off on a tangent there. Sorry.
It's okay.
Savannah, what we're talking about, and I can sort of start to conclude here. I showed in that body graph that was on the screen before that we are, what we are, what we're not. That's sort of the title of what we keep trying to look into. I was demonstrating the simplicity of these gates. There's only 20 of them, or 18 or 17 or 22. There's very few. There's just not so. Dude, we've had to memorize and remember and look at a lot more complex systems than that with a lot more moving parts. This has got a finite number of moving parts. Strategy and authority bring you out of your old 7-centered, strategic, cooperative only way into the way that is now open and receptive. It doesn't need to only be strategic. It's able to commune with the other and give of itself. We're here to give of ourselves. Every individual wants to do what the individual circuitry demands. Empower the other. Individual circuitry genetically demands we empower the other. Period. It demands it. So we don't live that out, we get sick. We do things, we go to jail, we have problems with the law, we don't stay married, we lose track of everything. It all starts to disorganize, and then the collective swoops in and takes advantage of that disorganization with its old 7-centered policies of hierarchy and control, and suddenly you get the mayhem that you see on this planet. Well, screw them. We need to take back this matrix from them. It starts one person at a time, and it grows from there. So,
is it even taking it back from them? I think we just need to crash it and do our own.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. My warlike mind is still going away at all that. Thank you for the correction, Jennifer.
It's okay.
You always make me better.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep. So I found a clip. It's about 4 minutes long, 4 or so minutes long. It's about two beings that are waking up. Now, if I could get to these people, anybody who knows these people, they are Dr. Zach Bush. He's amazing. He's been, just keep it on pause for a second. Dr. Zach Bush is this amazing creature who has literally been waking up. He was the first one to show me that our bodies really are mirroring our cosmos. And he's got all these certifications. I mean, he's been end of life care, total doctor on that, doctor, endocrinologist, cancer doctor. I mean, just years of school. He kept going back to school to get his new thing and become a new doctor. And he watched people die for 4 years or 5 years after all of this other knowledge. And so he had his epiphany. I got to get out of allopathic medicine. These guys got it all wrong. And he's right. They have it all wrong by thinking the old way of seven-centered way of medicine, which is all about profit and all the stuff that you see. It's not the way. So I found this picture online because it's perfect. Can anyone see what appears to be out of what doesn't belong here? This is the neurons in the brain and our galaxy. Look how they look about the same.
Yep.
And this is true for all the cells, dendritic cells, life cells, heart cells, blood cells. You get into that nucleus of that cell and you start seeing the various parts and how it operates and how it's connected to everything else through an electronic neural net. They look like our galaxies, like our universe. And watch what these two guys say to each other. It's rather striking. It takes a moment. So, and by the way, audience, whoever's watching, really pay close attention. Just, put other stuff aside for right now and put your phone down and just watch what these two gentlemen talk about.
A cancer cell is the only cell in the body that is completely cut off from all the information of the rest of the organism and thinks it's the last semblance of life. And it can't produce its own energy because it's so damaged. So all it knows is to start sucking energy from everything around it and trying to replicate as fast as possible because it's too damaged to heal, so it can only replicate. And I would posit that humans are too disconnected to heal. And so we are sucking the energy out of this planet as fast as we can, and we are replicating as fast as we can. So why did we go through this parabolic explosion of, I think because we were so damaged that the only thing we could do was proliferate. And if we could not heal. But that's not the spiritual journey we're on. It is the biologic journey we just did. The spiritual journey is there that every one of these bodies is animated by an infinite soul. Those souls know that as you get enough energy in a small amount of space within the universe, you create a black hole. You create so much energetic gravity that you suddenly do a creation event. Black holes are what create everything. Black holes take light energy, pull it into a gravitational center, and then spin it out, not in the shape of light anymore, but in particle state. That's called the event horizon of the black hole. So every galaxy that you've ever seen or displayed on telescopes or otherwise is this disk of stars that spin out these long energy forms of planets and asteroid belts and all of this. That's coming out of the event horizon of a black hole. Black holes are simply the most organized gravitational forces in the universe. Turns out we have billions of them inside of our body. Every proton is a black hole. The light energy that is coming out of your cells from the translation of sunlight into carbon chains as chlorophyll organizes a glucose molecule or a fatty acid, you consume it, passages through a million purposes to get to a mitochondria so that carbon can be broken back apart to release light energy. That light energy is so bright in you. Per cubic centimeter, the human body produces about 10,000 times more light than the surface of the sun. We're 10,000 times more efficient at releasing the light than it is in producing the light. We are stars. Why aren't you just blinding me right now? Because you're taking all of that light, and every proton as a black hole is turning it into a particle state. You have so much light energy, and it's expressing itself as particles right now, which make you look like a solid human being. You are a solar event in particle state, and you're here right now. And then we diminish you, and we diminish you, and we disconnect you from all sources of information, and you become the malignancy of the planet.
Pause. What stands out in this picture, guys? Science.
The internet.
The internet.
It's not it's like the same, but actually it's genetically modified to look like the other two.
It's genetically modified to have some resemblance to the other two, but it is not the other two. Science is catching up to human design's awareness that we are not separate, that we're all here to commune. Quite literally, we get our power, our individual powers captured through empowering the other. That is a solar event. It's an incredible release of energy from within us to give to the other. Jennifer, what was it? What?
I just had a massive epiphany.
Of course you did.
There's a guy that I follow. His name is Justin Belushi, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. Everyone in the spiritual community, in my spiritual community, if you get into like star seeds and stuff like that, we are constantly talking about the event happening, the solar flash, the grand event. Well, he posted, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week, that we are the event. The solar flash is going to happen when we accept the light inside of us and we burst out, which is exactly what you're talking about right now.
We have room for this map of the internet. We are creative, incredibly powerful things, creatures, we humans. We have room for this. But right now, like Dr. Bush was talking about to Aubrey, what's Aubrey's last name? I'm drawing a blank.
Marcus.
Marcus, thank you. Yeah, love him. He's catching lots of good stuff. I don't know if we're going to make it to that event, Savannah, but my heart will be there. It's Jen and I looked it up. It's cost prohibitive a little bit. It'll cost us like $8,000.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So that's a bit.
But maybe next year when he's doing it, because I definitely want to follow. I support.
Yeah, well, he's trying to build a big giant community, and I don't blame him. In somewhere in Wyoming. So anyway,
guys, we're talking about Arcadia. If you have not heard about it, definitely I'll post all the links to that stuff down below that you can go check that out.
Sounds like a good idea. So
I liked in this video how he said cancer cells, how they start is it becomes disconnected like from the whole, and then it starts kind of like self-destruction within the body. And then I like how he talks about that. He takes it to like a micro event, like a greater, how we are as a person as a whole connected to the people outside of us.
Zach Bush gave that to me. He gave me this awareness, and that's why I'm bringing it out here. And yeah, he talks extensively about how cancer cells, they disconnect themselves, and that's what makes them start dying. And the only thing they can do in their death state is cling to life. And the only thing they can do is replicate. That's why cancer cells replicate, because they're dying. And in a last-ditch effort to preserve life, it replicates. We've been doing that on this planet. Last-ditch effort to preserve the chaos of our life. We keep exploding our human population. That's all about to turn around quickly. That's turning around now. We're never going to make it to 15 billion people. Well, I doubt if we'll ever make it to 9. And if we do, it'll be like one of those things that has a top for a minute and then it'll come right back down. We're just not going to make it there, is the thing. So we can incorporate this internet into us. It has a place, but right here, what it's doing is it's separating us. That's why I chose this picture, because it's right in the middle, holding us apart in our 7-centered delusion that somehow we're separate from the other, and we can scream at people and tell them how bad they are and this and that. And we just need to empower the people around us, and the few people that suck so bad that control everything, we just need to render them moot by taking our power back. Suddenly they'll be moot and they'll be crying because it's like, I have this great big sandbox. It's a giant yacht. I have $80 billion. How come no one's playing with me? And we'll be like, we don't care. That's why you're moot. I have a big giant army. Yeah, but your army won't necessarily fight us because it's filled with individuals that are like me and everyone here. I told them to go murder you. Okay, well, it didn't work. I hope it doesn't work, by the way. But regardless, so play on. Watch what these guys say next.
All right.
And a lot of people are realizing that it's not the brain that creates consciousness. It might be consciousness that's creating the brain.
We have baked in this scarcity masculine archetype into this space. The alternative you just described, which is within each of us, looking to the divine, finding the divine feminine, finding the divine masculine, spinning those together. That's referred to as holy relationship, and it's in an individual.
Yeah.
It's the idea of coming into relationship with ourselves
Mm-hmm.
on that level is such a radical jump for me after years of listening to people talk about self-love and self-realization and mindfulness. Like, we've all been doing it.
Good humans. They're seeing it. They just need to put it together.
The bird of humanity has been flying on one wing since its beginning, the masculine wing. And for that, it has been just flying in circles. And in this period that we're in, 2012 forward, the feminine wing will begin to unfold. And in the years to come, for the first time,
Yes.
the bird of humanity will fly straight.
Yes.
Good humans again.
Yes.
Yeah, they're talking about our shift away from our old seven-centered existence.
Jay Krishnamurti said it really, really well, I believe, and said, quote, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." End quote. That to me captures
it all. And that last clip of what Zach Bush was talking about. Let's go back full screen.
Hold on 1 second.
So there you have it, guys. What he's referring to is that whole unfolding of that wing again, so that they said the bird is going to fly. Guys, we're so close. Savannah, you remember what Ra was talking about. Jennifer, if you've heard some of this already, and what he keeps talking about is 2027 is like the bird's going to wake up. We're waking up right now, and it started before 2012, by the way, but 2012 is a good marking point. Go ahead, Jen.
I was going to say, I feel like the divine feminines, and it doesn't exclude the males either, but I feel like we've been nesting. We're making a nest to hold what's coming in, that activation. We
Absolutely.
talked about that. Everything that you played today aligns, resonates with everything that I know from my inner gnosis.
Well, I keep searching for clips of people, and there's sort of no shortage of them at this point. Well, I like to find more and more of people waking up to the fact that we are more. We are not the old seven-centered way. Is the thing. And when he talked about the bird is going to fly, that's a quote from Ra Uru Hu. That's a quote.
Wow.
Yeah, Savannah, it's not a direct quote. Like, I don't think it's a word for word quote, but it's a paraphrased identical sentiment. He said what Ra was talking about. He's like, guys, we got to get ready because ultimately that bird is going to fly. He's talking about the greater global cycle into the cross of the sleeping phoenix. 2027 marks when the old way, one of the old things that we had, which was this channel of community that was transiting the sky and keeping us all in line to be community oriented, that's going to give way to this very individual cross of the sleeping phoenix, where the individual must rise. They must rise as their own individual self. And to do so, they're going to need tribal support. No one individual can survive on their own. So the individual, the tribe, and then the collective can be there to help. That's the order. That's the order. Puts the individual on top so that we can become the individual world we're supposed to be.
Yep.
9-centered humans, here to commune, open and receptive to the other. Not 7-centered beings, here to cooperate, closed to the other, strategic and active only. Focused, strategic, active, being observed. That's it. That strategic activeness has got to give way to the open receptivity that is us right now. Like we are open to each other's words. That openness is showing up in these guys. It's showing up in all the people I put on the screen. except the villains of Wednesday.
Yeah, I was just gonna say not everybody, not everybody, but we are showing that they're acting in accordance to they're not self-themed.
They're acting out they're not self. Yeah.
And we've been having some really interesting conversations off screen about a couple of things of open centers and attacking and knowing where to target people. So the more that we move into being in communion with each other, because that's a lot of people are transitioning or stepping into that direction.
Remember the mantra, we can't be whole until we've empowered the other.
Yep.
You're an individual. You can't live out your full design until you've started to empower others. And you can't do that as who you are not. You can only have glimpses of it and then long for it and then wonder why you don't have it and then be sad because you think something's wrong with you because you think you're broken. You're not. You're not. Self is broken. Who you are is perfect. It's waiting us to chip away the pieces so we can have the sculpture that's underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I was reading a quote from Ra, and it was essentially saying that same thing. Like when we live who we are, you know, it raises our vibration and it helps us impact people and have like the life we really do desire. But it's when we're living the not self of our chart that leads to all this suffering and this unhappiness. And so he was essentially saying, like, start living who you are and what your life force is inside, like with your circuitry, with your chart. And he's like, that's how you impact and change the collective, is like through yourself, through you experimenting and living your design. And as a result, that will help others to live their design. So, you know, if everyone got their human design chart read, you know, and started living who they are and not who they are not, we would have peace on this planet, you know.
We would have a different planet. We would no longer be the planet of pain and frustration and anger and sadness and disappointment and bitterness. It would all turn around. Let's close this thing out, Jen, because I'm done. And next week we'll get into more about our G center that drives love and direction. And for right now, I would just like to close by reminding everybody, human design is not a mystical process. You might receive mystical gifts from it, which everyone loves to have, but it's a practical, empirical process. You don't need to wonder that you're not being who you are and wonder what that means. Just get your body graph read. The openness in your body graph is who you are not. The definition is who you are. Let's keep it nice and simple like that. Get yourself read. That's how you wake up to your nature. And when I say wake up to your nature, people think, oh my God, what does that mean? What does that mean? It just means wake up to the aspects that are you. They're printed in your body graph. They're named, they're labeled, they're in the Maya. I can read them to you. So don't overburden yourself with what you don't know that this is. It's just
concern yourself with things that don't matter.
Yes, it's just human design, guys. It's a testament as to how legit it is. That's what it is. I'm quoting you, Savannah.
Yep.
You said that.
Yep.
That's
you can find all and that you can hear that at the very beginning of our intro. To book a session with Dan, there's the link down below. Check it out, guys. Definitely, if you haven't had your chart read, book a session with him. If you have and you still have questions, send him a text. He's more than welcome to help you integrate this information. We have a lot more things that we're doing behind the scenes to help you start integrating this information and living out in your design. It's not easy going through the deconditioning process, and it's not like you're going to wake up and everything's going to be changed. It is a process, but the collective, we are all moving in that direction, and we need to start learning how to hold space for the new beings that are coming in. Before we pop off and I forget, make sure to visit our store as well. We can get free shipping on anything that expires tomorrow. Use the promo code Awaken, and we will see you on Wednesday night.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Savannah. Thank you, Jennifer. We killed it.
Thank you. Y'all have a wonderful evening or wonderful day.
Nice. Bye.